Hello and welcome to our first ever LinkedIn Live Resilience Matters series. And today we're joined by Elizabeth Willetts, who's the founder of Investing in Women, who helps women find flexible and part-time work. And she's going to be sharing her insights on her personal experience and professional experience of resilience and mindset. So welcome, Elizabeth.
And thank you for having me. Thank you for inviting me.
Brilliant. It'd be great, tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Yeah, absolutely. So I founded Investing in Women not too long ago. It was less than a year ago, and it focuses on helping people find flexible and part-time work with some of the UK's most forward-thinking employers. And I founded it actually based on my own experience. My background is in recruitment, and that's all I've really done. And I was made redundant, one of those unfortunate people that were made redundant during the height of the pandemic, and I had two small children. They were 1 and 3 at the time. I wanted another part-time job that would fit around them, and I couldn't find one for love nor money. Every time a recruiter approached me and I asked if they'd consider part-time, they said no straight away or ghosted me. And
gosh,
I found it just impossible to find another part-time job, at my level and my skill set. And I knew if I did want to find a part-time job, I possibly would have to take a huge step down in my career and pay. So to be honest, I got really cross. I was following certain people online. I thought, I think this is wrong. This is why we have a gender pay gap, because it's not just children, obviously, that women that look after. There's a lot of women that have caring responsibilities and other responsibilities, but statistically, women still have most of the domestic and care responsibilities in our society. So they do need part-time and flexible working more at the moment than their male partners. So yeah, I decided I want to try and change it, do my bit for women across our nation. So that's why I founded the job board. I started a blog last January just to build up my confidence, because I'd lost a lot. I'd been on maternity leave and then made redundant. So I'd had quite a bit of a career break at that point. So I started just posting online and then launched the job board last June.
Oh, wow. And I guess, all the women you help as well, it's really relatable, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. I think
and I guess, you had to be resilient to do that. But I guess the people who you help have to be resilient, I guess.
Yes. I mean, people are genuinely fairly resilient. Because we were chatting just before we came online. It takes quite a lot. I know how hard it is to come back after maternity leave, for example, when you feel like you've lost a lot of skills, you've lost all your experience, perhaps your team has changed, your manager might have changed, and then to sort of bring yourself back and try and build up your confidence. I mean, you could have been out of the workplace for any reason. You might have had a health treatment, caring responsibilities, just a career break. But yeah, it takes a lot of resilience to sort of bring yourself back, put yourself out there, back in the workplace.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess it's interesting you say about the confidence, because I've had 4 children, so I've had 4 sets of maternity leave, and it's interesting, confidence does get hit.
Yeah. It does.
Yeah, when you think about it, you've actually gained skills. You've not lost them. You're better at juggling, your time management and that kind of thing. But it's funny how we lose confidence rather than gaining it, isn't it?
I think she's frozen, but I can carry on. Can you hear me, Alison?
Yeah, we're here. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Sorry, you froze then, Kathy, but that's fine.
The joys of technology, Elizabeth. It's the way it goes.
It's live. It's live.
Yeah, I didn't hear you, but you were saying that confidence gets hit when you go on maternity leave.
Yeah, and it's a strange thing how we lose it, because actually, if anything, we should gain confidence because we've got more skills from being at home, juggling a family, more life experience to bring to work.
Yeah, I do think that, but I think it's actually the way that our society is set up. It doesn't actually value care.
Yeah.
Oof.
It's not
big statement, but I mean, I can look at it from the perspective of illness and my work in cancer support, and also being a cancer survivor. And you see, and also my mother had dementia, and yes, the support mechanisms aren't there necessarily, and it's the women who end up doing the work.
Yeah.
But the women also have all these caring responsibilities, so yes, you're right. We're potentially not set up to support and care for people perhaps in the way that we need to be.
No, I don't think so. And I think if society valued care more and the contribution, the unpaid, I mean, you think about it, care is one of the worst paid professions in our society, and that's wrong. Everyone that works in the care sector is generally underpaid, which isn't real. And then people that do unpaid care, that's not recognised. So I think if care was valued more in society, it would potentially be easier to return to work after having time out to care, because employers would then be recognising all their skills, experience, and actually the people that have done that care as well might feel a little bit better.
And I guess you've also got that mindset side as well, haven't you? That if people value care, if care was rated the same way that work was rated, when somebody gets up, male or female, and a course I was running last week, I had 2 men who had to go and pick their children up, so they had to leave at 3:30. You know, that would be viewed as a strength, as opposed to a bit of a part-timer and hope you'll catch up with stuff later. You know, it would be seen of the same value as other things within the workplace.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And I guess, Elizabeth, you know, when you help, you know, women find flexible and part-time work, you know, what do you kind of see in regards to resilience, or how do you help them build themselves up to go for jobs?
I think it's actually a little bit like helping them try and recognise the skills that they have gained if they've had time away for whatever reason, and pulling them up. So, you know, I hear so many horror stories, and it does break my heart about attitudes that employers and recruiters and other people have. So it's just trying to change their mindset and actually building people's confidence on themselves. So I sort of said, if you have an employer that says that to your potential employer, would you really want to work for them anyway? It's a battle. It's a battle on building people's confidence up and say, no, you have got these amazing skills. You may have gone to baby groups. You may have not known a soul walk. I know how hard it was walking into a baby group. It's like walking into a networking group.
Yeah,
and it's the same thing. But employers would look at somebody that's really been really successful going into networking meetings different than somebody that's maybe made friends in a baby group or a carer's. My mum runs a dementia cafe. But they're the same, and the skills that you would need are the same. So it's sort of helping people recognise that, and then also employers, why that they shouldn't overlook people that have had a career break, why people that are working flexibly should stop being sidelined, need to be given the same promotion opportunities, because employers are missing out on talent as well.
Yeah. And funny enough, some of the work that we do, you know, we kind of say sometimes you can't change the situation, but you can change the way you look at it. You know, and like you've just brought out there, you know, rather than feeling like, oh, not a victim, but you know, I'm not good enough, which could affect your confidence. Like you say, flipping that and saying, actually, I wouldn't want to work for you as an employer, and I'm worth so much more than that. Yeah. So it's like,
and I think hopefully the more people start saying no, and it is a candidate market at the moment, which is good. I mean, you know, we don't know how long that's going to last, but there's more people, both genders want flexibility. But the more people sort of say, no, I'm not having that, being treated like that, I'm not having that attitude, then actually employers will have to change to hire.
And I was really hoping that, you know, with the pandemic and, you know, this big resignation, that mindsets might change on that. As you know, I'm a big champion of women returners and flexible working, and that people will, all those times that they thought flexibility wasn't an option, it's proved, hasn't it, that we can do it, you know, overnight, literally. So that's been amazing.
And employers that I think are becoming more flexible. And like I said, you know, actually, I think we do need both genders. We need everybody to embrace flexible working, to really work and stop being seen as just a mum thing or a woman thing. And people do want flex. And, you know, speaking to other recruiters that I know in my network that aren't necessarily flexible working recruiters, but they are sort of saying if an employer can't offer any form of flexibility, then they're not getting any applications. So.
The employee value proposition is changing, isn't it? And actually the things that in the past might have been the priority, there's been an awful lot of rethinking, I think, certainly that we've come across over the last 2 years, about getting a better balance and doing things that matter.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And you know, thinking about resilience again, you know, I don't know when you think you had to be the most resilient. Would you say it was that time when
No, I
No?
wouldn't have said it was that time. The time that I had to be the most resilient was when I was struggling with infertility, and then had to have was having miscarriage a miscarriage at work, and then doing IVF treatment.
Gosh.
So that to me was when I developed my sense of resilience and strength that I didn't know I had, and I probably before going into it wouldn't have thought I'd have had that. So yeah, that was the toughest time of my life, but actually it's the time I'm probably most thankful for, because it has built that resilience now and put so much else into perspective. You know, I've moved house actually a couple of times, and I thought, you know, people go, it's the most stressful time of your life, and I always think, no, it's definitely not. Going through IVF or a health, you know, another healthcare, that's definitely more stressful.
And that is true, isn't it? Actually, when you build your resilience, and we often talk about this with change, don't we, Alison? That, you know, the more people go through change, the less it affects them, you know. And I think having something life-changing like that, like you say, maybe it offers a new perspective and builds that mental strength.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I think it really does. I think it puts things in perspective. You know, you've been through tough times before. You know, you can get through things again. You know, you figured things out before. You maybe even quite resourceful. So actually, in a way, it sort of does build your confidence, I think, in a way. It's obviously hard.
And how
because you said when we were talking about sort of like mums going back into the workplace that sometimes they'll forget what they're capable of. But it's interesting that something that it resonates with you so much, you know, actually that is staying with you and going, you know what, this is evidence of how strong I can be, how strong I was. And that then really gives you that strong foundation to continue with you throughout your life, hopefully.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, and a role model for others. I think if I was coming to you, Elizabeth, and I heard your story, that would inspire me to think, so if Elizabeth can do it, I can do it. And it's being that role model. And I wonder, how did you remain positive and kind of get through some of the dark times?
When I was doing IVF, it's hard. I mean, it's a tough one because you don't know whether it's going to work or not, do you? And it's the uncertainty. To be honest, I don't think I was the best person that has gone through that treatment. I've spoken to other people that have gone through it and were maybe more, I was very secretive. I didn't want to tell people about it because I was worried about people's comments, upsetting me further. But other people are, you know, I've spoken to since were a lot more open, which may be the best thing. It's very personal how you deal with that. And yeah, I don't know. I mean, we had a lot of holidays. Do you know what? We had a lot of holidays. We used to have cool things to look forward to. And that, you know, I had a dog. We had a life, you know, a fairly full life actually before kids. And looking back, I mean, obviously you don't know what your outcome is going to be when you're going through it. But if I'd have known it would have eventually been successful, I probably would have enjoyed that period a bit more. But yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah.
Then it wouldn't have been so stressful because it is this thing about, it's that uncertainty. Isn't it? It's the uncertainty that we've got to deal with.
I think I personally think that is the hard, I think if your health is the most important thing you can have, your physical health and your mental health, and if it's not right and it's out of kilter, then that actually affects. I don't agree where people say you separate your personal and professional life. I don't see how you can, because you're one person, and I do feel like if you're going through a health scare, it does affect work. So actually being healthy now, I'm really appreciating that, and I think because I feel healthy now, both mentally and physically, I feel strong because I value that.
Yeah, and like you say, it's that appreciation, that kind of gratitude, that some things we just take for granted, isn't it? You know, some of our techniques, you know, we talk about gratefulness, isn't it? Because, you know, if you can cling on to that, you know, and something else you said, you know, about certainty, you know, it's funny, our brains always want certainty. We always want to know the outcome. It's why we worry, because our brain's trying to predict the future. It's trying to go, right, let me go through all the scenarios so I know how I'd respond if that happens. And when we don't have certainty, that's where our brain can just go into overload. I mean,
yeah, it's a bit chaotic actually. I think you're sort of lurching around if you don't have to. But actually, I think we've all had experience of that, haven't we? With the pandemic, not knowing how things would last, how long it would last, what the end result would have been. That no sense of no control over our lives. So I think we probably, as a nation, individually, will have all built, a certain level of resilience going through that.
I think so. And it's funny, even when I look at when I used to run change programs, there's some people who just take it in their stride, and there's some people who would really struggle and get stuck and catastrophize. And I think, even with the pandemic, you can see that of people, and it's not their fault. It's just about how resilient they are, and their ability as well to look at some of those positives in this situation. Because actually, a lot of people have become very grateful for what it's bring, extra time with family, a change of job, those positives that sometimes you can take from every situation, just changing the way you think. It's fascinating, isn't it? And as I say, it's just our brain trying to keep us safe as well. It kind of builds up a script over the years because it wants to know, like, when this happens, this will happen. When this and COVID, all of a sudden we had no script for that says this is how it's going to pan out, and which is why it's kind of puts you in this state of like stress and anxiety. It's a reaction. Absolutely. And I guess how would you say we could all help each other to be more resilient? Because it was interesting your comment earlier how other people shared and had other people around them, and how it's a very personal journey. But I wonder, hearing some of your story there, how much we can all help each other.
I think personally, I mean, it's hard, isn't it, to tell somebody else how they should or shouldn't behave, but I know that actually sharing my story has helped others, because it's helped others feel less alone. And actually, particularly my story about infertility and miscarriage and IVF, I've had people reach out to me, and perhaps wouldn't have reached out to me because I'm quite focused on mums now, but they've reached out to me and sort of said that really resonated with them, it's helped them. I did a LinkedIn Live with a fertility coach a few months ago, and we were talking all about how to navigate IVF in the workplace, and a lot of women did reach out to me after that and said that was helpful. So I think if you've been through something and you feel comfortable talking about it, and you can, that is really helpful. And not to sort of, I think when you're going through something like IVF, or I'm just thinking if you've got cancer or something like that, it's probably not as helpful to say, I know somebody that had it and they're fine. It's not, you don't know what's going to be your outcome, but actually just to say, I think this could help you, and be maybe a bit more practical. And
it sometimes helps to know that it's not just you. I think that that's very much that thing that it's not just me. It didn't just other people have got through it. And yes, as you say, there are, as with infertility, the same with cancer treatments, it's not always going to be the outcome you're looking for, but having those conversations and being around other people, the isolation would be the worst thing, I think so. In that situation.
Isolation, and the feeling of being alone and singled out, and you're the only one it's ever happened to. But as we know, cancer is like 1 in 3, infertility is 1 in 6. Statistically, if you go through something quite big like that, you're not alone. And there will have been other people, before you, after you, that will be going through similar experiences, similar feelings. And I think maybe it's just finding those connections to validate those feelings as well, those connections.
We have, like, one of our thinking habits is all around positivity and optimism, and that to me is always, I've always seen it as being like a real sort of like a double-edged sword, but in a positive way. That on the one hand, there is this thing about it's great mentally to have that perspective, but there's also so much out there that helps you realize that it helps you physically when you're when you're mentally thinking that way. So if we take sort of, I would say, IVF, or if we're looking at people who are going through cancer journey, helps heart health, immune system, it helps you to sleep better, reduces anxiety, reduces stress, all these sorts of things that we need, when we're going through tough times, we need our bodies to be working in our best format. And just by feeling more positive, lifting ourselves up even in a tough time, actually you're sort of like putting extra help and support into whatever journey you're going through.
Sort of nourishing yourself. Actually, say that because you said, "What? How did I navigate that time?" I did a lot of running, actually.
Interesting.
Which I enjoyed, because actually it does get you the endorphins going. I mean, it depends what you're going through, but if you can do some sort of exercise, whatever, endorphins do get going, and just have that time. I put the music on and run with the dog. So it felt like me before.
Yeah. And we see that a lot, don't we? Like you say, Alison, with the physical side, because I've had great admiration for both of you, because as me saying, there's positives and everything. And when you talk about your work, Alison, your IVF treatment, it's like you say, it's really difficult to know what to say or what support you can give someone, where it's really difficult to say, oh, let's look at the positives about this, what else you can do. I mean, I don't know what strategies as well, Alison, you have, with people going through something like that. You mentioned the positive and optimistic and the physical side of things, but
I think, and Elizabeth picked up on this earlier, I think the one thing about it is, yes, we're here, we're there to support you, but actually everybody's journey is unique. Because it is. And, to go, oh, this will happen to you, you don't know. You are handling uncertainty, actually. And I'm a control freak. I really am. So, I was learning everything I could do. Googling everything, learning how the system works as well. Just that thing about, is that, what can I do to help myself, which actually puts you under even more pressure to the extent that you're thinking, I must do this for myself. But actually, you talked about running, and I would walk and go for just big walk, just get out, leave the phone at home and go for big walks and just breathe.
Yeah,
I think sometimes that's what you want. You want to help people see, yes, there's a lot out there that you can do to help yourself, but also just sometimes breathing, grounding yourself. I'm going to go all mindful now, but the mindfulness of staying in the now, it really does it gives you that space then to start up again.
Absolutely. And I think it's not taking a break. I remember going with friends to the theatre and for meals. That was helpful to me. To have
laughing is the other side, the flip side of mindfulness. I hope mindful people don't take offense at that. But there's that other side about the energy of laughter and joy. Yeah, absolutely so important.
Getting that joy in your life. And do you know what, Elizabeth, you're an inspiration. And what I've when you said at the top of the call, that actually you made redundant and you done, like, right, no, I'm going to start a blog, I'm going to start a business, I'm going to help women, and make a difference in this world. I find that really inspirational and amazing how you had that strength to flip that and build it into a positive.
Yeah, people do though. Like, I think, I'm just thinking about the fertility coach I did that thing. She'd been through infertility. It hadn't actually been a success for her, but she'd been on such a journey. She'd felt she'd learned such a lot. She wanted to help other women. And I think that a lot of coaches are like that, aren't they? I mean, I'm not a coach, but I think you go through something and you've learned skills and you've developed experience and you think, no, I want to use that. Something that's a bit more important than just, I don't know, a 9 to 5 where it can be quite a narrow role.
Do you think you're sort of heading down that route of being more purposeful now with what you do?
Yes, definitely, yeah.
And what do you get from that?
I just like feeling like I like feeling like I've helped people and feeling like, I don't know, it's difficult, isn't it? I think as you get older you're motivated. I think the pandemic changed for everybody, things for everyone, didn't it? And it made you realize what was important and what mattered. And I get a sense of satisfaction knowing I've helped somebody find a job that is really working for them and their family and their circumstances, and the employer's happy as well. But actually that means a lot to me. It's not just about the candidates, it's about doing the right thing by the employer as well, and finding them a good candidate and helping them grow their business.
definitely. And we had a similar story, didn't we, Alison, with us? I'm a coach, and I left the corporate world to do something more purposeful, and I've done a lot of coaching with women returners, because that's my passion, my experience. Them horror stories you talked about, I had them. And and when Alison and I met, we really wanted to help people just turn around their mindset, because we see it so much, didn't we, that we started some of this work in the pandemic, didn't we, purposefully to help people, because when we know you can change the way you think, you just want to tell the world. And so it's completely driven by purpose, wasn't it, Alice?
It's so interesting. And I never was really into social media before, really. I sort of like scroll through Facebook and Instagram sometimes. But actually, I found it such a positive experience. And going online, I've met so many strong, empowered women like yourselves, like other women that I follow online. And actually just seeing them being so strong really inspires me. And I think we need to see women have sort of traditionally, haven't we, stayed small, like, historically. And it's amazing to see these outspoken women in the best way possible, not in a bad way, hearing their opinions, and they're not afraid to sort of, point out injustices. And I love that.
Yeah.
And I really think that is a brilliant, I think as well, like, I've got 2 daughters and I want to be a good role model to them. I really want to show them you can have a career, you can have a family, and you can make a difference.
Yeah, I do think the young women of today, and I talk with a 23-year-old and a 29-year-old young woman in my life, they are amazing. The way they'll stand up to themselves, and their boldness and their courage. It's like, actually, I don't think I was that strong at their age. I really don't, and I love to see it.
I do, but I think that's social media, actually, because people knock it all the time, but it's basically just blown up what probably used to happen in the street like 50 years ago, and all the women would have probably been gossiping or whatever, and it's just blown it up, and you're hearing these conversations and they're getting louder and louder and louder, and it's about time, I think.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. Let's say, although we help men and women, obviously, we are really passionate about some of those women returners and women with caring responsibilities as well. So we are totally on board with that. But I found you an inspiration as part of the reason we went, right, we're going to start doing lives. I know just the person, I watch it all the time on LinkedIn, she's great. And so you've really inspired us as well to really continue this series. Yeah. And so I guess if there was any points you'd leave people with, is there any sort of like top tips or things you would say to people who would get in contact with you?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, if you want a flexible or part-time job, please give me a shout. You can send me a message on LinkedIn. I'd be happy to help. I think so. We talked a little bit about mindset and flipping, any negative thoughts you may have about yourself and your experience. Whatever you've done in your life, you've gained, honestly, a lot of skills, a lot of experience, and so many employers would be lucky to have you, and you would be an asset to them. So yeah,
gosh, that's an inspiration.
Love it.
Thank you so much for joining us and sharing
your all right. Thank you for having me.
Pleasure.
It's been great. And we're going to be continuing this series of Resilience Matters with a number of people across different industries and functions. So if any of our network would like to get in touch and be part of that, we would love that. And again, if anybody would like to reach out to us, all of our details are on our website, which is ihavegotthis.co.uk. And we'd love to hear any thoughts and insights, or indeed if you'd like to be a speaker. But thank you for your time, Elizabeth.
Thank you.